Hey yo, it's your boy Sam Duke.
It's your man Tell McKell, and Warren's muted,
And
but that's
Warren
It's
muted
your
Warren.
his
boy
mic.
Warren P. I pressed the button like 3 times, man. My bad.
Hey, you're listening to another great episode. You
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 good,
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 bruh?
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 Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Before we even start today, first things first. Since we're trying to do a better job of pushing out this video content, please, you can go ahead and stop what you're doing right now. If you're listening, if you're watching, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on our YouTube, on our Facebook. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and hit the bell so you can get notification when we're on live. Same thing on Twitter.
Yep, yep.
You can get the notification when we're on live. We're trying to do these shows a little bit more live and do a little bit more video content from day to day. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate y'all for taking the time to do that. Real quick, we're having a good a conversation. I think that it's kind of going to be like a continuation conversation of what we talked about maybe 2 weeks ago when we were talking about the unhappy man, and we were talking about how the unhappy man is less emotionally intelligent, and we were kind of getting into that a little bit. And it was funny because that week, I mean, not that night after we recorded that episode, I went and I did a post just saying that let's be real, men out here aren't happy. We're lacking communication skills. We're building up barriers and walls, and our black women want to love us, but they can't because of the situation we put ourselves in from an emotional intelligence perspective. That next day, I think that post was shared over 600 times. The next day, I had someone put in my inbox a story about I think from Psychology Today, which was talking about the men who are basically more unhappy in relationships as of
We're
right now.
lonely. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
we're
lonely.
more lonely. Yeah, we're more
Yeah.
lonely when it comes to relationships. They use data from dating apps and stuff like that. And I would consider it arbitrary data. I wouldn't necessarily say any of this was a hardcore data,
Yeah.
but I think it was good to kind of see that perspective he put out there. And I think one of the biggest pieces to the article, and one of the biggest pieces I found about the article, was it was just speaking on men lacking the emotional skills needed in order to sustain real relationships, and women kind of brought their level up from what they're wanting from a man, or their standards up from what they're wanting from an emotional standpoint from men.
Yeah.
And then basically the article said that we're not teaching men about that. And so with that being said, I know that was a mouthful. With that being said, there was a therapist that a young black therapist that came out. This young lady came out and basically had some words to say to black men regarding their emotional intelligence, and that article that I just spoke about.
Right.
Did y'all want to play it, or y'all want to just kind of move forward? What
Go
happened?
play it. Play it.
You
Let's
want?
hear it. Because that will help some of the context
You think
of
that'll help?
why
Okay. All right.
things
So
happen the way they did.
So let's play it. Give me just 1 second here. You'll see it come up right here. Oh shoot. Yeah, it's monkeypox.
Emotional vocabulary.
Let's
Say
start
you
off.
need to expand your emotional vocabulary. It's so your life can be easier. Don't you want to be able to communicate with your bitch? I think yes, right? Long gone are the days where you can just shut down. Bitches is not tolerating that. Like it used to be where men provided financially or with Schmeat, and bitches can make their own self come and we can pay for our own shit. So I'm gonna need y'all to catch up on the emotional part. If a bitch is telling you I need you to communicate more, open your fucking mouth. But you know what I realized? And let me back up. A common misconception about me as a clinician is that 90% of my clientele have been men, Black men specifically. And what we specifically work on is expanding their emotional vocabulary, because a lot of y'all motherfuckers don't even have the words to express how you're feeling. So when you expand, your vocabulary and knowledge of what you are experiencing, because y'all are human beings who experience feelings and emotions and don't have to choke that shit down no more. Y'all ain't had to choke that shit down since 2016. Anyway, if y'all are not in therapy, expanding your emotional vocabulary, your life just off top is going to be more difficult. When you expand your emotional vocabulary, you expand your awareness of yourself. When you expand your emotional vocabulary, you understand how you can navigate in this bitch. This fucking weird ass world that is so hard on y'all. Like, let's acknowledge that the world is very difficult for y'all, but y'all are not making it any easier, bruh. You're not. When bitches are telling y'all to go to therapy, it's not for us. It's for y'all sad motherfuckers. Go to therapy. Talk about that shit that's on your chest. You don't have to choke that shit down no more. Y'all are doing a disservice to yourself. And so let me sum this shit up. Y'all told bitches to elevate our standards. And at the cost of us elevating y'all standards, y'all got axed because y'all didn't elevate either. Bitches are not tolerating emotional abuse, emotional neglect. Step it up. Go talk to somebody. Go expand your emotional vocabulary so your life can be better, bitch. All right. Go in peace.
bruh. Mikhail, what the fuck going on here, Mikhail?
What do you mean? I mean,
I want to start with you because I know what Warren says. I want to hear because I've never heard the whole thing, to be honest with you.
Oh,
but
word?
as I'm sitting there, she's like, "Get your bitch ass life together."
No, she referred to women as bitches.
No, she referred to
I ain't hear her call guys bitches. She said, "If you want your bitch." Well, she didn't call men bitches. She said bitch ass life.
Yeah,
sadly.
like that. Yeah.
So
and motherfuckers as well. That's
motherfuckers as well. So
yes.
Those words exist in society as just like water. But more importantly, for her group, her generation, that's how they talk. Like, this message wasn't meant for me or you, Warren, for that matter. Let's be clear. Like, our generation, we don't talk like that. So unfortunately, when you go to Twitter, which is, she was trying to reach her group, and specifically the men she's trying to speak to, this is how they talk. So she's using their vernacular. I mean, it's at the end of the day, I don't have a problem with it because you meet people where they are. I don't have a problem with it because in addiction therapy, there's nobody trying to be eloquent. Ain't nobody trying to be, all soft like that. People that come to that type of treatment, they've lived hard as, I ain't gonna say street lives, but definitely toxic lives. So that vernacular is not foreign to them. And quite frankly, they appreciate it more so than us speaking therapies. So
okay, I can see what you're saying, but as someone who she's not talking to, I consider myself very emotionally intelligent.
Right.
I am not in the class of niggas and bruhs.
Right. So you offended but she ain't talking to you.
But at the same time, I was like, yo, I can't necessarily accept her message in the way that she presented it to me.
I'm saying if she spoke Chinese.
No, hold on. Before you get there,
yeah,
I'm going to say it was unemotionally intelligent for her to speak to emotionally unintelligent men in that manner. If her goal was for them to follow what she was saying, that's just me. When I'm talking about how do you get people to resonate with your message, I don't necessarily agree that was the best course of action. That's just me.
I'm just simply saying it's hard for us to tell because of the point you just made. Your intelligence in terms of emotionally is way higher than the group that she's talking to. Like, for example, I'll use this as an example. Whenever we do something, we write something, we're required to write it, and when it's public consumption, it has to be written at an eighth grade level, right? Like the CDC just got in trouble for releasing some data because it was at the 11th grade reading level, and they had to go back and revamp and lack of a better phrase, forgive me, dumb it down to a lower grade reading level. So you have to meet people where you are to communicate in a way that they don't feel like you're trying to be better than them. And that message was not meant for me. That message was meant for an audience that, quite frankly, I'm learning their vernacular. I'm learning, you know, like I just learned what a glizzy was. Like, come on, man, what the fuck? Like I don't speak that generation's vernacular. And I think people that got at odds really, you know, were not taken into consideration. Here's a couple of things. Not every therapist is, oh, how are you doing today? You know, there are different theoretical backgrounds and approaches to reaching your audience. I don't know hers. I mean, I can guesstimate some of the things, but it definitely is a space where she tends to. It sounds like she keeps it real. And I take that back. I do know, like, she works with younger kids.
Yeah.
Like, or she did before they fired her for this video.
We're gonna get to her being fired, but
yeah. So I mean, but that was her. Her passion is the Black community. She works with the Black community, a younger group, on purpose. And when you talk to young people, you can't speak in high end therapies. You that is the group that we're trying to speak to at that grade level.
I got it, Sam.
I mean, all right, tag in, Warren.
Okay. I just got one question to ask you.
Okay.
At any point in your life, unless you were on a football field, when a man or woman was calling you bitch and trying to get you to do something, were you receptive to that message? Just name points in life.
What do you mean? Well, where I come from, you didn't talk like that. And if you did, if you did,
hold on, wait. And let me further on to it. I still talk to these young boys out here as much as I can. I can promise you, you trying to get these young boys out here to go to therapy by calling them bitches and with that tone and with that ain't working. Not to the majority. There's always exceptions to the rule, and I'll give you that. But I don't speak on exceptions.
Well, I mean, I'm not to challenge the group, how you interact with them. I'm saying her group, her core audience, the people, like, she has, like, I don't know if it was a result of the video, but she got quite a large following on TikTok.
I'm sure she did.
So I don't know if it came.
Holding Black men accountable by calling them bitches will get you a great following.
Well, I'm saying I don't know if it came from that, because she has a plethora of content prior to that video, and did you see the content that I showed you also in regards to? Yeah, I mean, her apology stuff and all that. Yeah, I mean,
it was other stuff too. But once again, I don't want to go. If that's her style, that's her style.
I'm simply saying that all I'm simply saying, Warren, is that whatever her style is, whatever her therapist voice is, it has been. She had a job as a therapist with that same voice. This one video went viral. There were some other therapists that thought that thought her approach would be either they felt like it was countertransference and all this stuff. And you know what? If that's the truth, then I would say that she needs to have a conversation with supervision. Like, it should not be a case where if you speak how you speak, and it was cool when nobody knew about it, but now people know about it and you get fired. I think that was a misstep, because when you think about it, there's only 4% of therapists out here that are Black. 4% of the total therapist population. And we over 13% of the population. Like, that number is skewed. So if nothing else, she needed to be coached.
I'm not into firing people over videos. Like, I want the young lady to keep a job and get a bag. But I also feel that there was just so much hypocrisy that was exposed in regards to that. So I'm not even upset at her. Like, if that's her style, do your thing, lady. But it's just, as a Black man, I sit back and I see the response. And
I don't know, but I hear young folks call each other bitch, man or woman, all the time.
I hear that, Mikhail, and I understand what you're saying, because I don't want to take the human aspect away from a therapist. However, I do want to be real about this and say, yes, she has a platform. And yes, that platform, for some reason, she went out and said what she said, how she said it. But I had to read the comments. I had to see, because it's not just about what she said, it's about how it was received as well. You get what I'm saying? Because it was
and how she said it.
It was received by other
'Cause I used
therapists.
to hear that a lot about somebody else.
But it was also received by other individuals, like other Black men who were in therapy, like currently in therapy. And I saw this one comment with the man was just like, as a Black man in therapy, I'm tired of hearing how tired people are about dealing with Black men in therapy. Like, can we, like, that was his stance. It's like, look, because that's something that she says. She's like, I probably have about, what's she like, 90% of her time is spent, getting Black men to elevate their emotional intelligence. But he's saying, okay, well, what does that do to us, that you would leave your sessions with us and then go blow us up in this manner on your TikTok platform or on your Twitter platform? Like, how does that supposed to make us feel? Should that make us feel safe to go back to you guys?
Well,
I mean,
for
the ones that are out here doing the work.
She didn't address the ones that were in therapy. She addressed the ones that were not.
She did address the ones that were.
I'm saying if you're in therapy, that's what she was literally saying. Get in therapy.
So can I ask a quick question? So if you address an audience that you know what, this message isn't catered to you, you're saying people should just, hey, whatever. It doesn't involve me. So
I want to,
because we can go there.
Hold on.
I'm saying scroll by.
Hold on. I want to be clear, because she did address the men that go to therapy. She talked about how so much of her time is spent with 90% elevating their emotional intelligence. And then she came back and reiterated that men that aren't need to go, but like, which I agree with. I think it's the burden talk for me. It's the, we get it. I get that y'all are human, okay? But what I'm saying is, it's like when you go to a social media platform, when I saw men that were genuinely hurt, men that were going to therapy that felt like, yo, why are all these therapists coming for us in this manner? Right. And trust me, I'm one of these people that feel like men could do their job and step up from an emotional standpoint. But yeah. I'm also one of these people that I do believe that delivery, like the delivery matters. Like if we're gonna be the type of people that come out and come at Kevin Samuels for talking to people in a certain tone. He did more than that, but he did more than just talk.
Rest in peace.
He did more than just talk to them in the back rash tone. What he talked about, like how he talked about them, was an issue as well. However, when we look at that, we have to say, okay, well, her tone wasn't necessarily inviting. I wouldn't, like, after listening to her, it was like, oh yeah, the first thing I'm gonna do, I can't wait to call a fucking therapy. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not the truth. Like, it's not the reality is, as somebody who she's probably no older or younger than me. We're probably right in the same age space. I was just like, yeah, that turned me off a little bit. Now, thank God that's not my therapist. I'm not dealing with her on a day-to-day. But at the same time, I can't sit and pretend that, I didn't see people that actually are doing the work and people that are in her field that did not agree with her approach.
But there were people in there agree that didn't have a problem with it.
And there are people in her field that didn't have a problem with it and also use Kevin Samuels as the reason. And my issue is, it's like
that wasn't my reason.
I'm gonna give you.
It's mine.
But I'm gonna give you. But I'm gonna give you the what I've seen. What I've seen is, so y'all let Kevin Samuels do all of this, and he didn't get fired, which is true because Kevin Samuels didn't necessarily he had his own platform.
Yeah, he wasn't
a therapist. Yeah, he wasn't working for somebody. And he's not a therapist. That's true. But at the same time, like, my standpoint is like, yo, like, you're now a therapist using Kevin Samuels as your bar for defending this therapist, and it's like, that is a little.
I think they may have been. It may have been a bad mix. I think what people are kind of, or that therapist may have, I'm just postulating what they probably were thinking about is that here's the hypocrisy. Like you were high-fiving and yeah, Kevin Samuels, you're not a therapist, but we love your message. And then you have a therapist that you felt that her energy was Kevin Samuel-esque, and now you're attacking her. So how is it that Kevin Samuels was your bar for this is the message that we need to hear, but now you hear it from a clinician, someone that actually does the work, and now you're trying to ruin her life. And that's where I kind of, felt, we're going too far with it. Like at the end of the day, here's somebody that is experiencing life as a therapist, and her experience is, yes, she has clientele that are coming in and she's doing the work, but by the multitude, Black men are not in therapy. And then the other group is her girlfriends, her friends, the people that she's around. She's experiencing the unintelligence aspect of it, and it may have been some transference in there, it may not have been, but at the end of the day, nobody has said that she was wrong. They just said that I don't like how you said it. So I'm gonna take a stab at a couple of things, like low emotional intelligence, symptoms of it: resistant to change, passive, unresponsive, slow, stubborn, fussy, poor listener, impulsive, aggressive, demanding, egotistical, bossy, and confrontational. That's what a low emotional intelligent man framework is.
Yeah.
So if you look at her message and you look at the responses, I definitely saw when people were not listening to what she was saying. They were just responding to it. They definitely were being critical of her. And I'm saying simply, there are different theoretical approaches. We're still discovering what works for our community, because I will tell you that more often than not, Freudian style therapy does not work in our community. We like to take steps like, well, what do I need to do, doc? Like that's how they talk. And you say, well, if I say, well, can you tell me about your sexual trauma when you were a little boy? If he ain't highly emotionally intelligent, that's not going to go down well. And he's never coming back. So our stuff is more behavioral, it's more dialectical behavioral therapy. This is what I felt like has worked just from the battlefield. And sometimes that reality therapy, which really is not based on diagnosing, but kind of giving people a perspective of what the life that they want versus the life that they have, and how you can bring those two together. Like that is a real conversation.
Okay. Mikhail, I'm gonna challenge you real quick. From that 2 minutes that we just watched, is there anything in there that you would do differently? I know you're not saying you're not her, you don't have the same mode that she has, but is there anything in any of that she said that was just like,
yeah, I don't. I'll tell you, I don't. So, have I had the same tone as her? I think is a fair assessment, because obviously I wouldn't say it like her, because I don't. Like I said, I just found out what that shit was off of a video.
Like I just learned that shit.
Yeah, I just learned what this shit was. So, I mean, no, I wouldn't say it the way she says it, but I have had a similar tone, especially in my group addiction therapy space. And it's because people that come in there tend to have low emotional intelligence. They tend to be aggressive. So if you sound a little too meek, they'll try you. Mm. So you have to, kind of piss on the floor. Let them know, hey man,
say it with your chest.
Say this is a safe space up in here, Playboy. You got the role, period. Yeah. And so you're gonna have different tones. Like, therapists are not robots. And you have to represent the energy and speak your vernacular. And all I saw was a woman with a specific tone for the group that she was reaching, using their language. I don't talk like her. And to be frank with you, it was funny for me to listen to it, because I was like, bro, when we started doubling up on the like,
when she said, bro, I lost it, bro. Like, right. Oh man,
okay. So it was entertainment for me, but I knew what she was doing. I mean, it's basically it's the concept is you're creating a fracture, and I think it's the style therapist, but you create a fracture where you kind of shock the system of the client, and then they're trying to figure out what the hell is happening, but at the same time they're hearing you, and you're making them process their behavior in a way that you can have a conversation. Now, again, there's different ways to create this fracture of thinking. You don't have to do it how she did it. Again, I'm going to lean in that she's doing this based on how she talks in a general sense. Like if she's with, and you want her to be real, you want her to be authentic. It may not be how we talk, but again, that's the part that I have to look at what she was doing. That's why I said if there is any counter transference in there, or transference rather, that's something that can be talked about and brought into supervision. But there's sometimes even when that's can be therapeutic depending on what's happening in the session.
Okay.
This wasn't a session though.
I have a question. If a white therapist said that in regards to black men, would you be in the same tone? You sit there and
I mean, if he good on MLK, he could do it. You understand what I'm talking about? You can't be up in there, lily white.
No, just we don't know where. Once again, we don't know where they at. We don't know where they at.
Listen, I'll say it is. She is who she is.
I have no.
And comparing her to say a white male therapist is a contradiction, because the whole purpose of her becoming a therapist is because we didn't have somebody we can relate to. We didn't have somebody that we felt like understood us or our language. So if the
black man is saying they don't understand that message, then we need to learn how to understand, because it's too many inconsistencies.
There's no, if I can understand it, and I'm not.
And what are you?
But I'm not speaking it. I'm a black man.
You can understand her, but what are you?
A black
You're
man.
a therapist, right? She's a therapist. So to a person such as me.
Can I say something?
No, because you didn't win and I didn't chill. I'm gonna continue on with my point.
I'm more than a therapist.
You're a therapist. You're a therapist. She's a therapist. You can understand language. So I'm gonna speak for the regular man here.
Okay.
Right? Whether it was a black man, a black woman, talking in that tone, suggesting that we shitting mainly on the 90% of our clientele, like, yo, this is how you feel about us.
That's
as Sam alluded to earlier. It does not create an environment to whereas black men would feel safe sharing their experiences, what they're going, because this is the type of shit you talking about me behind my back. Like, I go to therapy. I've broken down in front of therapists, but it's just certain things. But I love Miss Mona to death. But if I heard she was rambling like this after one of our sessions, like, yo, what the fuck? Like, don't
So this ain't the first time. This is not the first time a therapist has gone to social media to complain about the lack of emotional intelligence in black men.
And I had a problem with when we talked about it briefly the other time.
I'm saying, but the therapist that I'm talking about, for some reason, I guess because she didn't say bruh, other therapists were definitely in support of her. She didn't lose her practice. She didn't lose her license. None of this stuff was going on. And she literally said the same thing, maybe a little bit more eloquently, but to me, she divulged her experience in therapy. This therapist was talking about an audience of men that don't even see therapy as an option. And that's the difference for me. Well, I mean, if they're going to make up whatever excuse they want to.
I agree with you there, but it's just like, we got to show what we're talking about, creating safe spaces for men to be vulnerable and shit like this. And maybe we will be on we'll agree to disagree on that. But that right there wasn't something where I felt like, hey, yeah, I would love my son to go to her.
Well, Warren, what I will say to contradict your space, you're a Kevin Samuels lover.
Yeah,
you know, you're a lover of Kevin Samuels.
Yeah, that's my guy.
But at
the same time, wait. Before you go forward, there's a lot of shit that he said that I disagree with too, though. There's a lot of shit that Kevin Samuels said that I disagree with too. And I'll admit that.
It's not even about what he said, because I know we just had this conversation about emotional intelligence that you agree with what she said. Because if you go 2-3 episodes back, we had this conversation about emotional intelligence.
I've said that
all of
throughout
this
this episode
And-
that I agree with the
and-
overall message, but
well, that's
also
what I'm
I do
saying.
feel
That's what,
as
hold
a
on, hold
man
on.
that requires
that's-
respect. Also, how you deliver that message plays a very important
I hear
role.
that, but as a lover of Kevin Samuels, who delivered messages like whatever messages you want in the most brash tones, in the most disgusting tones I've seen in a while, to be honest with you. I'm being real. He ain't did it to me. He didn't do it to me. But what I'm saying to you is, if you're saying you agree with the overall message, but you agree with the overall tone of Kevin Samuels, then you should be able to marry those two and be fine.
No, once again, first of all, when women said, "Hey, we don't like the way he talks to us," I never once said, "Hey, man, y'all need to woman up." I get it. I've been around enough women to know that ain't the right way to deliver a message to them. I can still agree with something and also say, "Hey, I don't like how that message was delivered, and I don't think it will be received well." So I completely understand. My issue with what I say with the Twitter spaces was like, "Hey, now I just find it hypocritical that y'all came at my guy for his tone and stuff like this. But when black men are saying, hey, we don't like the tone, we don't like this and that, it's an issue." What she said is completely 100% true. I won't say, nah, I've never once called this woman a liar. I never once said she doesn't care about black men. I just say, hey, man, watch how you fucking talk to my people.
Let's take it there, though. All right, I'm with you right there. And I'm with the shits today. What could it be? Could it be? And this is, I'm not even, I've already went on record that I don't really fuck with how she did what she did. But maybe, just maybe, could it be that y'all just don't like women talking to y'all like that?
Disrespectfully? No,
talking to y'all like Kevin Samuels talked to women. Y'all, maybe, just maybe, could it be that internally men just cannot take what they put out? Because Kevin Samuels was a brand that men clung on to as if he was the second coming of.
Now, please, as you say that, now I want you to make sure you integrate the fact that it wasn't just black women that he talked to like that. Let's make sure we add that in there.
What I'm saying is, you're okay with him doing it to men, but you're not okay with the woman doing it to men too. That's what it is, literally feeding into the point that I'm trying to make here.
Yeah,
it's like literally Kevin Samuels talked to men like that, talked to women like that, and you know, for people that love him, they're okay with it, right? But this woman talked to men like that, and for some reason we can't digest it, right? And from my standpoint, where I sit, I can't digest either. You get what I'm saying? I can't take either side. I actually didn't like the way she presented it, but I ain't like the way Kevin Samuels presented most of his shit either.
And I respect that. Like, I'm not disagreeing with that.
What I'm saying is, if you just take a step back from the love that you have for Kevin Samuels and say, mate, is there potentially a bias in there? Is there potentially a space in there where it's like, I just don't like to hear women talk to me like this? You know, like, is that in there anywhere? And if that's the case, if it's not, cool. But if it is, it may be sometimes, because I tell people all the time, we got to check our biases, because this woman, who I'm not a fan of, by the way, I'm just making it clear, I'm not a fan of. I liked her message. I feel like it could have been delivered differently, but they came for her in a manner that they did not come for Kevin Samuels.
Who?
The men,
social media,
the
social
men.
media men.
No, the men. And there's a clear. I want to make a clear understanding. There's the men. Okay, and so what I'm saying is like, we have to really, really take a look and say, okay, is that what really bothers us? Because you said I have no issues with the message, but I also like to hear messages like Kevin Samuels. To me, that was a Kevin Samuels' message. Why can't you accept it? Why can that not penetrate? Why does it not, why can you not deal with that? Is it because she's a therapist? Say that. But if it's not, then what is it?
Is that just going out to the public? Because I can do both. I ain't know if that was a message for the public, or is
that's the message. That's the message for the public. And if you like to answer, sir, you can answer on the behalf of the public.
Okay, nah. I mean, two things, man. One, she's a therapist. I never looked at Kevin Samuels as a therapist. I look at Kevin Samuels as a we live, so I can't say that. As a person on the block, the 99. Well, I don't want them boys to come for me. Certain groups who would speak messages about black men, black women, whatever, talk their stuff, stood 10 tones down and what they believe. Now, do I feel like how they got some groups get their message across? I disagree with. Me and my wife have seen Kevin Samuels footage where she like, yo, he was out of pocket for what he said. And I would agree with her because I'm like, yo, bro, it's wrong. I have no problem looking at an individual and saying, hey, I agree with you on this. I disagree with you on that. I'm not a blind follower to anybody. I stand on what I believe is true. When it comes to delivering a message in different platforms, bro, to me, I looked at Kevin Samuels as an entertainer. So I'm not looking at him as, hey, man, I need to hang on his every freaking word. He's a marketing person. I'm not holding him in the same like or holding him to the same standard as I would a Mikhail. If I seen Mikhail ever get on the platform and talk shit like Kevin Samuels did, I'm pulling him to the side and be like, yo, what the fuck is up with you? You're not the same
I'll be like,
person.
I want to check.
Okay, and I will respect that. Okay, I see what you own right now.
Can therapists
That's
not
the
be
difference
entertainers?
between the
Well,
two.
I mean, that's my issue.
Are
Really,
they not the Dr. Phils of the world? Are they not
Yeah,
the Ron Van Zants of the world?
can I
Are
say
No,
this?
I get
Hold
it.
on, hold
I
on.
get it. I'm not
This is
knocking
the
that.
part that people are not getting.
Yeah.
I feel like people are not getting that therapists are people too. Like, we are therapists. So yes, I know how to deal with stress better. Yes, I know how to deal with people that have personality disorders or people that have emotional distress and things of that nature. That doesn't mean we don't get the chance to be angry. That doesn't mean we don't get the chance to be sad or happy or any of the other core feelings that we represent. So the question is, are we going to be 100% therapeutic every time? When I'm at the grocery store, I'm not in that space. I'm not a therapist. If somebody almost hit me with a car, I might be like, hey, motherfucker, watch where you going. That doesn't make me less of a therapist. Like, if she was in therapy doing what she did in that video, I would 100% saying it the way she's saying. If I was a supervisor, I would pull it to the side and be like, whoa, like, I get where you're coming from, but everybody in the room is not going to catch that energy the way you're sending it. So let's do something that's a little bit more plain, a little plainer. Check the tone, the verbiage, try to bring them to your level. Yes, you can meet them where they are, but the idea is to elevate them in their emotional intelligence. So don't just use vernacular that they understand. Make them think about what you're saying. Like, what you mean by that? Make them ask questions. That would have been a little bit more helpful. But she wasn't in a therapy session. She didn't have a client therapist privilege in terms of what she shouldn't say. She never named anybody. Like, at the end of the day, she didn't do anything other than hurt some people's feelings that may have actually heard that message before and they're sick of it.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is really happening, is that people are tired of hearing that men are unemotionally intelligent. And the truth of the matter is, if you're tired of it, this is the message. If you are tired of it, let's invest some time and step in your game up.
Yep. I will say this. Yes, we can. We can say spend some
No,
time.
I'm talking about if you're tired of hearing a certain message, invest in yourself to. I'll leave it alone. I'll leave it for another day.
I'm like,
I'll leave it for another day.
We can say that because we operate in the space, because we see we see that men don't show up. Mikhail did an event 2 weeks ago. You walk in there, it was done by a black man based on traumas of a black man, and it was nothing but black women in there. And you see the work.
I'm with you. I'm the message. I am 100% with Shorty on
You Could Bro podcast. Hey, You Could Bro podcast. This is a podcast for a safe space for men to express their emotions. 57% of our listeners are women.
And shout out to y'all, by the way.
Shout out to women.
Love y'all.
But guess why they're listening to our podcast? so they
to
can
better
take
understand men, which I
no,
greatly
no.
appreciate.
no,
Oh no,
no,
not
so
oh, my
that they
bad.
can package this shit up and send it to the man that they love, the
Right.
man that they want to grow, the man that they want to get more emotionally intelligent. That's why they listen. I get DMs every day.
I was about
Hey,
to
man,
say, I got a DM that one woman said she listened to us to get hope, because she's just
Oh,
like,
hey, man.
if I could see men that are demonstrating the emotional intelligence that I wish men would have, it gave her hope that there are men out here that have it. And yes, she shared it with family, but the fact is that some women watch this stuff because they're like, okay, I'm not crazy. Here are men that actually see where I'm coming from and are able to articulate it. And it's just an affirmation for them that they are not crazy. We need to really get into the game, because here's a sales pitch. Do you want your life to be better? Do you really want to enjoy? Do you want your food to taste better? Do you want your sex to feel better? You have to increase your intelligence emotionally. And I guarantee you these things. These are two things we feel we need: food and sex. And they can be better if you increase your emotional intelligence. Is that
pitch
is
for
that
your
is
ass.
that a better sales
I
pitch?
was just
Yeah,
about to say,
much
that's a good
better.
ass salesman
Much
right there.
better. That
Hey,
hey,
look.
she would have got a raise.
I mean,
All right. So we spent a lot of time talking about what she did. Let's talk a little bit about the reaction to what she did.
okay.
She actually got fired. I think
That
she
wasn't
did the
cool.
video on Tuesday. She got fired on Friday, and
Right.
her being fired was a result of some backlash and a story, I believe, that was written
Yeah, the story was written.
by a black woman about her. And I guess, negative press. Nobody wants that. They got rid of her, and in them getting rid of her, she kind of posted some other videos just talking about the impact of what it looks like, because now, all of her clientele are without a therapist. People that she's built rapport with for the last couple of years are without therapy,
Right.
or without her as a therapist and all of that. And I just wanted to get you guys' take on the fact that she was fired. How do y'all feel about that?
I'm
I
gonna go
mean-
first. No, because I don't want to hear Mikhail therapist take it first. I'm gonna go first as the regular man. One, I'm
I'm just a regular man.
Yeah, I hate when you clowns and you losers get offended by something that somebody says on the internet and does everything you can do to destroy how that person brings in revenue and finances.
Yeah, that
What
shit's
she
nasty.
said, even though I disagree with the tone, what she said was 100% correct. We do need to be more emotionally intelligent. We do need to seek out therapy more. Okay, you disagree with how she presented the message. That ain't enough to get this woman fired. Like, if
Shouldn't have
she's genuinely out here helping brothers and sisters, I support her. The same thing I'm saying earlier, I would have pulled her to the side, like, yo, can't talk to us like that. Like, if it works in your sessions, that's cool. But overall, it doesn't work. I think it was terrible. Now, for people having their difference of opinions on Twitter, I'm a firm believer in once you put some on the social medias of the world, like, you open yourself up to that. Like, I have replied to tweets and people have said, why don't you just mind your business? And I laugh every time and I send the same message. Hey, journals cost 99 cents at Walmart. You can write in there.
Keep it to yourself.
It's on a public space. So guess what? The public is going to reply. Simple as that. But nah, y'all clowns and losers for getting that woman fired. Black
Go
woman,
ahead,
by the way.
Mikhail, what's your take on this, man?
I mean, honestly, I don't think termination was valid in this case, because what she did is protected by free speech. She didn't violate anyone's civil rights. She didn't violate any rules that I'm aware of. She didn't do any harm that I'm aware of that would cause somebody to harm themselves. So for me, I felt like it was an overreach to terminate her. And she's done like 2 apology videos since then to those that were offended.
Okay, did she? I didn't know. I was just about to
Yeah.
go with you about that too. I was about to
Yeah,
say, okay,
so this is after she got fired. She did the apology video, but to Warren's point, I mean, and I think I said this before. This was a African proverb that, what's in your mind is yours, and once you say it, it belongs to the world, to us. and people took it and ran with it regardless of her intention. But I don't think it warranted termination. Again, I think if she's a young therapist, she needed supervision, not to be cut loose. I mean, I wouldn't do it.
I agree. Now that I know, because I was gonna come with the A word, the accountability word, and I didn't know that she apologized, and so
two videos.
When you lose that check, people
Well,
they would say when you lose a check, people will apologize. I'm just saying what people would say, not saying that's the
people
case.
Apologize to keep the check. And I'm saying like
or to get a check back.
She didn't have. No, I don't know that's how that works. Not in therapy.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying people will say in certain cases that people will apologize after they lost a check or they're trying to get a check back. I'm not saying this about this young lady. I don't know her.
Yeah,
but I believe it was authentic. I believe. I believe. If she apologized, it was authentic. Because I mean, if from what Mikhail tells me about therapists, all of them. Yeah, so like
I mean,
you know,
I think she's
I'm going to believe
keep
her.
It real. It seems like she's been authentic the whole time, bro. Like she's kept it real the whole time. Like, you know, so
hey, when keeping it real goes wrong,
it goes wrong sometimes.
It can, but that's a lesson for her as a young therapist, is that you know, you do have to be mindful of the fact that people are watching. And for those that are not aware of what therapists really are, because I hear all the time, you know, like people say that they've been to therapy, and I ain't like the therapist, you know, but I like talking to you. I said, well, you know, two things to keep in mind. Like, number one, if you didn't like the therapist, you were probably looking for something to not be in there for. Like you didn't want to be there.
You're trying to get away.
You're trying to get away from them. And they were like, well, no. I said, well, did you do any of the things that they suggested that you do? No, I wasn't feeling them. They were just like, I said, okay, so tell me what I'm telling you different. You know what I mean? Because what it really boils down to is if you're not doing the work, that's going to give you the net zero result that you felt like you were getting. And part two is I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to be your therapist. You don't have to like me. You don't have to like your medical doctors.
Nope.
As long as they cut you right and do what they're supposed to do, you good to go. So why is it that you have to like your therapist? It's not required. Like, therapeutic spaces can happen without a therapist. Like, if you have an intimate, close friend that knows everything about you, and you go and talk to that person and share how you feel, and if you're emotionally intelligent enough that you have the vernacular to talk about how you feel, you've just created a therapeutic space. Therapists we're modeling in therapy what your personal relationships probably should look like when it comes to topics that are stressful for you. Like, we instead of being that friend and be like, come on, boy, let's go beat their ass, we're like, well, let's what exactly are you afraid of? Like, what's making you even present this angry? What is it that you're afraid of? And that's the issue, is like, we're trying to teach our clients how to have conversations that don't have them in such high emotion that they ruin their lives.
No, that's real.
I mean, and with that being said, I think it's important, before we wrap, for me to say this. Men, y'all need to get y'all fucking emotional intelligence up. I ain't no therapist.
And he don't play one on TV.
But I don't play one on TV. And you can't fire me. You know, I've seen too many men go without working on themselves. And we're in this space where, you know, when that article came out, there men on both sides. What about all the lonely women? Like, nigga, nobody's talking about the lonely women. This is an article talking about the lonely men. And at this point, we have to take some type of accountability for where we are at emotionally. We have to take some type of accountability for where our families are at emotionally. We have to take some type of accountability for where our relationships are at. And the reality is, if we don't, then our people are going to struggle. They're going to suffer. I'm going to say this. This is something I've been wanting to say for a minute. The day that Black women decide they want white men or some other race of men, we're fucked.
I don't know because they're not that emotionally intelligent.
No,
either.
bro, we are. Hold on, bro. We are fucked, bro. We are fucked. Because what happens is we go date outside our race at a higher level. Women, our black women, don't do that at the same level as we do. And what I'm saying is the
That's
day they
another
decide,
Sam. That's a whole other
Bro,
topic because
Bruh, hey,
it is,
I'm gonna leave
but-
it alone because he already called me a Kevin Samuels lover, so I'm gonna leave it alone.
let me. I'm only pushing back because I've worked with other groups other than black people,
yeah,
and what I will say my experience has been is that sisters are higher emotional intelligence than say some other groups because we've had to be in a space where we really didn't have the gender roles the way the rest of society did. So they're not bogged down with, what should be versus, or, what the society says it should be. Other groups have adopted and embraced having these gender roles. So if a black man is saying, I'm in a white man's space, and sisters are not understanding the dynamic, and here comes, this other woman from a different group that fits what this brother is saying, that's what the issue is. He's able to connect with them in a way that he feels like sisters can't. And I'm saying, brother, of course she doesn't, a sister's not connecting that way. They're more advanced. I'm saying elevate yourself. Why settle for being less than the man that you could be just for the sake of some ass? Like, bro, come on.
I agree with you there, but I'm just saying that hopefully our women don't get tired of us. That's the best way I can put it. Hopefully they're saying, look, get better emotionally, and we're saying, you know what, we will. That's what I'm saying to you.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, then we'll be looking at some different kind of problems coming in the future. Because my daughters will be emotionally intelligent. I will raise them in that manner. They will demand some level of emotional intelligence from the next generation of young men that are coming. And so hopefully they can meet that. That's just me. I don't go into the whole other topic. That's just me. That's my take. That's where I'm at with it. Any final thoughts, final words, fellas?
No, I think I said my final thought.
I just I will say my words. First, for the shots of my boy, rest in peace, baby. He also was an advocate of black men getting therapy. Knew that we needed black women getting therapy. But coming from him saying it is completely different from actual therapist saying it. That's where we draw the conclusion between the two. Why I think one should have been regarded in a higher light versus because that's not his profession. Two, and most importantly, black men, and this is myself included in that, we have to increase our emotional intelligence. Like, if you go back to a previous episode, I literally thought I had a higher emotional intelligence than I did, and then Mikhail read out the stats, and I'm like, I'm dumb as fuck when it comes to emotional intelligence. I'm like, damn, boy, that man just ripped me a new one with that one. Okay,
that
maybe I'm not as smart.
That episode, by the way, is not on our video. It's an audio episode, just in case you want to check that out.
So with that being said, let me be the one to say, hey, I know some of us may think we are much more emotionally gifted or talented, intelligent. Do the work to see if you really are. Put yourself out there and recognize, remember conversations that you had with loved ones or how you handle other situations that may have been difficult, and how did you handle that emotionally? Like, think about those situations to gauge where you are emotionally. Hell, ask people that you love and care about, because the young lady, tone aside, was 100% correct. We do have to be better.
Yes, sir. All right, Mikhail, before we wrap,
So what I wanted to say was, a couple of things. I will say this, that it's difficult for a therapist to say you need therapy because some people that are skeptical will think we're just being self-serving. So I would actually argue somebody like a Kevin Samuel saying it would have a little bit more credibility with the general public because, as you made the statement, you're the regular guy in the conversation. So you come from a perspective that people can relate to versus the therapist in the conversation. So I think him saying it is what validated. It's almost minimized when we say it because people see it as it's kind of like doctor saying, "Hey, man, you need to go to the doctor." Yeah,
Yeah,
so
go
you can
get
make
a
some more
checkup.
money, right? And while that may be the wrong perspective, I'd be remiss if I didn't point that out. I think for me, one of the things I want people to take away is that therapists and therapy or psychiatrists or psychologists are professionals in the science of psychology. And that's a very scholarly statement. And a lot of our clients or a lot of our viewers will have, some of them have college degrees, some of them have graduate degrees, some postgraduate, like doctorates. Please understand that scholarship intelligence is not the same as emotional intelligence. Just because you have
Oh,
a
drop a bomb for
PhD,
that one right
a
there.
master's, a bachelor's, no matter your quote unquote education, that is not the same thing as emotional intelligence. So don't walk around here all chest out, head too high, thinking, oh well, I don't need therapy. I got all types of degrees and da 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 da. Therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists all have to see therapists, psychologists, and psychiatrists, even though we have the degrees.
Mm-hmm.
To not just attain higher emotional intelligence, but to maintain it, because the world is so toxic that it wears and tears on us too. So we're people too. Don't ever forget it. And so that's kind of where I was at with it.
Hey man, with that being said, man, look, that gem that Mikhail just dropped is worth y'all subscribing, liking, sharing the page, hitting the notification button. You get what I'm saying? So that way y'all know when we're coming on. I see there's a couple people on right now. Go ahead and do that right this second. So that way
appreciate
you'll
y'all.
know.
Yeah.
We appreciate y'all. Thanks, Jamila, for participating with us today. We really appreciate it. For more conversations like these, it's You Good Bro Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, especially the YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube. And it's You Good Bro Pod on Twitter. I am Sam Dupe, and I am good.
Hey, I'm Tel McKell. I am good.
I'm Warren P, and I'm good.
All right, just like that.
We
He's
out.
gone.
We Dro.